Sir, let me bring up the column of our friend Bobby Tiglao, also in the Manila Times. He was quite critical of the barangay system. He was saying, and I think this was not too far off from the point you were making earlier, that the barangay officials end up becoming the political machinery of the mayor and other local government officials, and perhaps even the national officials by extension. And you were saying a while ago that because the barangay officials ask for resources from their local mayors, that there is now a thin line. Are you guys talking about the same thing? And maybe the next question is, how do we decouple the barangay from traditional politics?
Well, that's where the challenge is.
Okay.
If the barangay officials do not solicit support from the local chief executive, for example, is how do they deliver, for example, ayuda?
Yeah.
Right? How do they get social
with
services?
An allowance of 1,000 pesos a month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do they implement health services? Right? So they're really dependent.
Yeah.
Right? If the barangay official does not solicit support, then his constituency in the barangay will start crying out for help, right? So where do these citizens go?
Because as you said, they're the front line of
exactly
of government, yeah.
And they have to make a choice, and that choice, unfortunately, is going back to the local government, the city or municipal government, for assistance.
Right.
Right. I don't know yet how we can give the barangay full autonomy.
Yeah.
Right. But now with the reforms, let's say, for example, in the tax system, the internal revenue allotment, the barangays would give a slice, will get a slice from the pie of the IRA, right? And they have to have that autonomy exercising fiscal management. I don't know if people realize it, but the barangay is probably the most powerful unit of government. Because the barangay is the executive department, executive branch of government. They manage, right, the barangays. They're the judiciary because they have small,
they mediate between,
Yes, they settle disputes among neighbors, right? And they legislate. They come up with their own barangay ordinances.
Yeah.
So if you put these powers together, if you look at it, they're really powerful, very powerful.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't think to what extent that the barangay officials realize their role.
Right.
Right? And maybe they should take advantage of those because they're the ones holding the three branches of government at that micro level.
Right.
Right? So we have to carefully study that, what nuances should we uncover. Okay? And strengthen the autonomy of the barangay from the local government. But at the same time, getting support from the government by way of programs that has to be delivered to the citizenry. Right? So that's quite a challenge. We have to really unpack it like an onion, peeling a skin at a time.
Is there an effort to do that, or maybe even to review what is precisely the role of barangay, so that maybe we can design it in a way that they don't have to become reliant on local politicians? Sir?
I am not aware of any effort in that area.
Okay.
But it would certainly be good subject matter to study.
Right.
Especially in schools, colleges where they offer public administration, for example.
Right. Now, just to be clear, what we're talking about here is that a widespread occurrence. I mean, I'm talking about the areas where only one candidate ran, and then there were areas where there were no candidates at all. Was this at a level that is concerning, or these were just pocket occurrences across the country, or are we still trying to figure it out?
Well, in areas where there were no candidates, for example, it's really an issue that we have to address.
So it happened frequently enough, or in many places, that it becomes a concern for Namfrel? Is that
we're still gathering information on that level.
Okay.
Right? Trying to find out how widespread it is.
Right.
Okay. But in case where there's no candidate, right, it's really a concern because, again, they're at the front line.
Right.
In cases where the positions, in barangays where the positions were uncontested, that's another level of concern.
Right.
Right? Because there's, again, the competitive nature of elections is not present.
Right.
And then, of course, in areas or in barangays where they did not have complete slates running for positions, that's another issue that has to be examined. Okay? So, again, like I said, we have to peel the onion a skin at a time.
Right. And it sounds complicated. But do you think that the election violence of the past, right, do you think that had an influence on maybe discouraging some people from joining the elections now?
Surprisingly, in the last barangay and SK elections,
you were saying generally peaceful.
It was generally peaceful.
Yeah.
In the traditional hotspots or areas of concern, we did not get any reports. Right? Even media, I think, did not get any reports of electoral violence in some in hotspot areas. Even in the case of Negros Oriental, where everybody was really concerned
of Tebes and
Yes, it was peaceful. It was quiet.
Yeah.
We did not get any report there of any anomaly. Right?
Okay.
Now, the anomalies, the cases of violence and harassment happened in the BARM areas. Right? So, you can see the contrast between the nation in general and the BARM area there. So we have to, again, study that. What are the implications if looking forward to 2025 and maybe 2028, what would be the election dynamics?
Right.
So we have to carefully study those again so that we can identify recommendation and recommend to the Commission on Elections what actions can be taken, right? Or even to the extent of proposing reforms in the election code.
Yeah. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but is there a suspicion that maybe some of the violence that did not occur where they were expected, perhaps because the local politicians have already made maybe arrangements? Okay,
Maybe.
this is who will run. No one run against them.
Yes.
Everything's settled, right? I mean, is that a possibility?
It's a possibility, but I think with the current commission, the current management, the Comelec and Bank, right? They are quite proactive in implementing election rules, election laws, right? So, for example, they tried to address the vote buying by establishing a committee on kontrabigay.
Okay.
They had actually really monitored the campaign exercises 10 days before the barangay elections. And even before that, they were warning already the candidates to toe the line, right? In other words, they were exercising and putting in place existing
mechanisms,
mechanisms to really control
but
it.
Do you think they were effective? I remember Chairman Garcia was quite vocal in saying, "Don't even try."
Yes.
We had the president, President Marcos saying that, but it still happens, but the government is doing something about it. But
but in the case of vote buying, for example, people were skeptical about vote buying, whether it would be resolved or not, because it has never been addressed to the full extent, right? In previous elections, right? But in the last elections, the Comelec came out with the rules,
right?
So they said, and they had several presumptions in that set of rules,
right?
So if you're carrying this much amount on election day,
or even on GCash or PayMaya,
yes. They got these electronic payment portals involved also in monitoring money transfers.
Disbursements,
So And there were some cases filed, and they have to look into those cases,
Okay.
whether it would merit further action.
Okay.
And they should, if they do find really reason to file cases against the suspected violators, then they really should pursue it to the end. In previous elections, the reason why reported cases of vote buying, for example, did not prosper is because the witnesses, to begin with, lost interest in the case, in the complaint already. Okay? Or that even with our observers, our monitors in the ground, we said prioritize your security, your safety and security. Right? So one of the things that was embedded in the rules was the commission was looking at the possibility of witness protection program.
Wow.
Right? To that extent. But then we asked, but how about the rest of the family?
Yeah.
You have to address that. Right?
Yeah.
And in any case, the current unbank had decided that this is what they will do, really enforce the election rules, election laws.
Right.
Right?
And do you think moving forward that the mechanisms are in place, or did we learn something new from the last BSKE? With regard to, the putting in the mechanism or the safeguards for vote buying and whatnot?
What this demonstrated, the latest action, is really implementing the laws.
Okay.
Right?
So we were
the laws may
testing-
not be perfect. There may be some loopholes in there
Right.
that somebody can exploit. But to begin with, enforce the law.
Okay.
Right.
And is Namfrel satisfied that there was an effort, a sufficient effort made to do that?
We're still pushing.
Okay. Okay.